The survivors. The acrid stench of burnt metal and charred flesh hung heavy in the air as Sergeant Rin Halston picked his way through the rubble of what was once a thriving human settlement on planet Zephyr. The war between humans and the Zephyrian aliens had reduced the colony to a smoldering ruin, like so many others scattered across the hostile planet's surface. Rin's battle-worn face was grim as he surveyed the destruction, his grip tight on his pulse rifle. Behind him, the ragged remnants of his squad followed in silence, their eyes hollow from the horrors they had witnessed. There were only 5 of them left: Rin, medic Ava Kessler, tech specialist Jace Ryder, and the young siblings Kai and Nera Voss. "We need to find shelter before nightfall," Rin said, his voice rough with exhaustion. "The nocturnal predators will be out in force." Ava nodded, pushing a strand of her auburn hair out of her face. "There's an abandoned alien bar about a click to the east," she said, consulting the map on her wrist display. "It's not much, but it might provide some cover." Rin signaled his agreement, and the small group set off, picking their way through the rubble-strewn streets. The eerie silence was broken only by the crunch of their boots on debris and the occasional distant howl of some unseen creature. As they approached the bar, Rin held up a fist, signaling for the others to halt. The building was a squat, dome-shaped structure, its once colorful exterior scorched and pitted by weapons fire. But what caught Rin's attention was the faint light emanating from one of the shattered windows. "Someone's inside," he whispered, motioning for the others to take up positions on either side of the door. "Kai, Nara, stay back and cover us. Ava, Jace with me." With practiced efficiency, they stacked up on the door. On Rin's signal, Jace kicked it open, and they burst inside, weapons at the ready. The interior of the bar was a mess of overturned tables and shattered glassware, illuminated by the flickering light of a handful of glow globes. And there, huddled in the corner, was a badly wounded Zephyrian. The alien was a mass of blood-matted fur and scorched armor, its 4 eyes wide with fear and pain. One of its 6 limbs was clearly broken, and a deep gash ran across its chest, seeping dark blue blood. "Please," it rasped in broken Earth standard, holding up its uninjured hands in a gesture of supplication. "Do not shoot. I am not your enemy." Rin kept his rifle trained on the alien, his finger hovering over the trigger. Every instinct screamed at him to shoot, to eliminate the potential threat. But something in the alien's eyes, a depths of pain and desperation that transcended species, stayed his hand. "Who are you?" Rin demanded, his voice harsh. "What are you doing here?" The alien coughed, a wet, rattling sound. "I am called Zax," it said. "I was left behind when my unit withdrew. Please, I seek no fight with you." Rin hesitated, torn. The Zephyrians were the enemy, responsible for so much death and destruction. But this Zax, was clearly in no condition to fight. And there was something in its voice, a note of sincerity that Rin found hard to discount. Beside him, Ava lowered her weapon slightly. "Rin," she said softly, "it's badly wounded. We can't just leave it here to die." Rin gritted his teeth, the old hatred warring with his sense of compassion. Finally, lowering his rifle, he stepped forward. "All right, Zax," he said gruffly. "We'll patch you up. But if you so much as twitch wrong, I'll put a pulse bolt through your head." "Understood." The alien nodded weakly. "Understood," it rasped. "And thank you." As Ava moved to tend to the alien's wounds, Rin couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this decision to aid an enemy, would change everything. For better or worse, their fates were now intertwined with Zax. In the war-torn ruins of Zephyr, an unlikely alliance had been forged. What it would mean for their survival remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: in a galaxy torn apart by conflict, even the smallest acts of compassion could light the way to a brighter future. Little did Rin know, as he watched Ava work on the wounded alien, that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would be fraught with danger and difficult choices. But for now, in this moment, they had chosen to be more than just soldiers. They had chosen to be human. Unlikely allies. The tension in the air was palpable as Ava worked to stabilize Zax's condition. Rin and the others kept a wary eye on the alien, their weapons never far from reach. Trust was a rare commodity in these war-torn times, and it was not easily given. As Ava applied a sealant to the gash on Zax's chest, the alien's eyes flickered open, meeting Rin's gaze. "Why are you helping me?" It rasped, confusion evident in its tone. Rin's jaw tightened. "I don't know," he admitted gruffly. "Maybe because we've seen enough death, or maybe because we're just tired of fighting." Zax nodded slowly, wincing as Ava tightened a bandage. "I understand," it said. "I, too, am weary of this conflict. I never wanted to fight against your kind." Rin's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Then why did you?" he asked, a challenge in his voice. Zax sighed, a rattling sound that echoed in the stillness of the bar. "Because I was ordered to," it said simply. "Because I was told that humans were a threat to our way of life. But I have seen things during this war. Things that have made me question all that I was taught." Rin leaned forward, interested despite himself. "What kind of things?" Zax's eyes took on a distant look. "I have seen humans risk their lives to save their comrades," it said softly. "I have seen them show mercy to the wounded, even to their enemies. These are not the actions of a savage, destructive race. They are the actions of a people who value life, who fight for what they believe in." Rin was silent for a long moment, considering Zax's words. Around him, the others exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of surprise and contemplation. "You're not like any Zephyrian I've ever met," Rin said finally. Zax chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "And you are not like any human I have been told about," it countered. "Perhaps we have both been missiled." Ava finished her work and sat back, wiping her hands on a scrap of cloth. "There," she said, "that should hold for now. But you'll need proper medical attention soon." Zax inclined its head gratefully. "Thank you," it said. "I am in your debt." Rin stood, his decision made. "We have a temporary base, not far from here," he said. "You can come with us, get the treatment you need. But understand this. If you betray us, if you do anything to harm my people, I will end you myself." Zax met Rin's gaze steadily. "I would expect nothing less," it said. "I give you my word, I will not betray your trust." As they prepared to move out, Kai and Nera helping to support Zax, Rin couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. By choosing to trust Zax, to see past the divide of species and allegiance, they were setting foot on a new path. It would not be an easy road. Trust, once broken, was not easily mended. And there would be those on both sides who would see their alliance as a betrayal. But as Rin watched his squad work together to clear a path through the rubble, humans and Zephyrian united in purpose, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something new. A first step towards understanding, towards peace. It was a fragile hope, as delicate as a candle flame in a windstorm. But it was a hope nonetheless. As they set out into the gathering dusk, Rin at the head of the column and Zax limping along with Kai and Nera's support, a strange sense of camaraderie settled over the group. They were an unlikely bunch, battle-hardened soldiers, a wounded alien, young siblings barely old enough to fight. But in this moment, they were united by something stronger than species or allegiance. They were united by the simple, profound desire to survive, to find a way forward in a galaxy torn apart by war, and perhaps, in the process, to find a way to heal the wounds that divided them. It was a long shot, Rin knew. But as he looked back at his ragtag band of survivors, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had chosen to be more than just soldiers, more than just enemies. They had chosen to be something greater. They had chosen to be a force for change, for hope, and that, in the end, might make all the difference. The hunted. The journey to the temporary base was fraught with tension. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every sound a potential enemy. Rin and his squad were on high alert, their weapons at the ready, while Zax limped along with grim determination. It was during a brief rest stop, huddled in the shelter of a bombed-out building, that Zax finally revealed the full extent of its situation. "I am being hunted," it admitted, its voice low and strained. "By my own kind." Rin's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" he demanded. Zax sighed, a heavy sound laden with weariness. "When I questioned the war, when I spoke out against the slaughter of humans, I was branded a traitor," it explained. "My own unit, soldiers I had fought beside for years, turned against me. I barely escaped with my life." Ava leaned forward, her expression one of sympathy. "That's why you were left behind," she realized. Zax nodded. "They will not stop until I am dead," it said bleakly. "And now, by aiding me, you have painted targets on your own backs." Rin was silent for a long moment, his mind racing. To continue to help Zax would be to invite danger, to risk the lives of his own people. But to abandon the alien now, after all they had been through, felt like a betrayal of everything he believed in. "We knew the risks when we decided to help you," he said finally. "We're not going to back out now." Zax's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. I do not know what to say," it managed. Kai, the younger of the Voss siblings, spoke up. "You don't have to say anything," he said with a grin. "That's what friends do." The word hung in the air, a declaration of trust and acceptance. Friends. It was a concept that transcended species, a bond forged in the fires of shared adversity. Rin stood, his jaw set with determination. "We'll need to move fast," he said. "If Zax's unit is hunting it, they won't be far behind. Jace, can you jam their tracking signals?" The tech specialist nodded, already pulling out his equipment. "On it," he said. "I'll set up a rotating frequency jammer. Should keep them off our trail, at least for a while." As Jace worked, Rin turned to the others. "We'll take shifts keeping watch," he ordered. 2 on, 4 off. Ava, see what you can do to speed up Zax's healing. We're going to need everyone at full strength." The squad moved like a well-oiled machine, falling into their assigned tasks with the ease of long practice. But there was a new energy to their actions, a sense of purpose that went beyond mere survival. They were no longer just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for something bigger, something more important. They were fighting for the hope of a better future, a future where humans and Zephyrians could coexist in peace. It was a dream that seemed impossibly distant, a faint light flickering in the darkness of a war-torn galaxy. But as Rin watched his squad work, as he saw the determination in their eyes and the solidarity in their actions, he began to believe that it might not be so impossible after all. They set out again as the first light of dawn began to paint the sky, moving with renewed urgency. They knew that the hunters would not be far behind, that every moment was precious. But they also knew that they were stronger together, that the bonds they had forged would not be easily broken. Humans and Zephyrian, united by circumstance and choice, they pressed on towards an uncertain future. And though the path ahead was fraught with danger, though the odds were stacked against them, they carried with them the most powerful weapon of all, hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a galaxy where the lines that divided them would not matter. It was a fragile hope, as delicate as a newborn star, but it was a hope nonetheless, and in a universe consumed by darkness, even the smallest light could make all the difference. Sanctuary. The sun was setting over the rugged landscape of Zephyr when Rin and his squad finally reached the hidden entrance to the underground base. They were exhausted, battered, and on edge, but a palpable sense of relief filled the air as they descended into the cool, shadowed depths. As they emerged into the main cavern, they were greeted by a sight that none of them had expected. Instead of the sparse, utilitarian setup of a typical military base, they found themselves in a bustling hub of activity. Hydroponic gardens lined the walls, green and lush under artificial light. Scientists and engineers huddled over workstations, their faces lit by the glow of holographic displays. And in the center of it all, directing the organized chaos with calm authority, was a woman Rin had never expected to see again. "Dr. Serene?" he asked, his voice a mix of surprise and disbelief. The woman turned, her sharp features softening into a smile. "Sergeant Halston," she greeted warmly. "It's good to see you again." Dr. Ilara Serene had been a leading xenobiologist before the war, known for her groundbreaking work on interspecies communication. Rin had worked with her briefly on a mission years ago and had been impressed by her brilliance and compassion. But when the conflict with the Zephyrians had escalated, she had disappeared, presumed dead. "We thought you were killed in the attack on Proxima Station," Rin said, still trying to process her presence. Dr. Serene's smile turned sad. "Many were," she acknowledged. "But a few of us managed to escape. We've been here ever since, working to find a way to end this war." Her gaze fell on Zax, who was leaning heavily on Kai's shoulder. "I see you've brought a friend," she observed. Rin tensed, ready to defend Zax, but Dr. Serene merely nodded. "You are welcome here," she said to the Zephyrian. "Any friend of Sergeant Halston's is a friend of ours." As Ava and Jace helped Zax to the medical bay, Dr. Serene led Rin and the Voss siblings to a small private room. There, over cups of steaming coffee, she explained her work. "We call it Project Unity," she said, activating a holographic display. "It's a terraforming initiative designed to create a shared environment where both humans and Zephyrians can thrive." Rin leaned forward, studying the complex schematics. "You want to change the planet itself?" he asked incredulously. Dr. Serene nodded. "Not the entire planet," she clarified. "Just a small region, a proof of concept. If we can show that coexistence is possible, that we can create a world where both our species can flourish, it could be the first step towards ending this conflict." Rin was silent for a long moment, considering the implications. It was a bold plan, audacious in its scope. But he had seen firsthand the cost of war, the toll it took on both sides. If there was even a chance that Dr. Serene's work could bring an end to the fighting, he knew he had to support it. "What do you need from us?" he asked finally. Dr. Serene smiled, a glint of determination in her eyes. "Your skills, your knowledge," she said, "and your commitment to a cause greater than any one of us." Rin glanced at Kai and Nera, seeing the same resolve in their young faces. They had already risked so much, defied so many expectations. What was one more impossible challenge? "We're in," he said simply. In the days that followed, Rin and his squad threw themselves into the work of Project Unity. They scouted locations, gathered resources, and provided security for the scientists as they worked to transform the harsh Zephyrian landscape. Zax, too, played a vital role. Its knowledge of Zephyrian biology and culture was invaluable, providing insights that no human could match. Under Dr. Serene's guidance, it worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between the two species, to find common ground in a universe that had driven them apart. And slowly, incredibly, they began to see results. Small pockets of lush, vibrant life began to emerge amidst the barren rock and ash. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side, united in purpose and hope. It was a fragile peace, a tenuous coexistence, but it was a start, a glimmer of possibility in a galaxy consumed by darkness. And for Rin and his squad, it was a chance to be part of something greater, to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm. They had found sanctuary, not just from the dangers of the war, but from the hatred and division that had fueled it. And in that sanctuary, they had found a new purpose, a new reason to fight. Not for territory or resources, but for the dream of a better tomorrow. For the hope of a future where humans and Zephyrians could stand together, not as enemies, but as friends. It was a daring dream, an audacious hope. But it was a hope nonetheless. And in the light of that hope, even the deepest shadows began to recede. A new dawn. The attack came without warning. One moment, the hidden base was a hub of peaceful activity, humans and Zephyrians working together in harmony. The next, the cavern shook with the force of explosions, the acrid scent of smoke filling the air. Chaos erupted as soldiers and scientists alike scrambled for weapons, for defensive positions. Dr. Serene emerged from her lab, her face grim with determination. "We can't let them destroy the terraforming equipment," she said urgently. "If they do, all our work will be for nothing." They moved out, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. The sound of battle grew louder as they approached the entrance to the cavern, the flash of energy weapons illuminating the darkness. And then they were in the thick of it, fighting side by side with Zephyrian defectors and human soldiers alike. Rin caught a glimpse of Zax, its fur matted with blood, firing a stolen Zephyrian rifle with deadly accuracy. The battle was brutal, intense. The attacking Zephyrians were elite soldiers, trained for this kind of assault. But Rin and his squad had something more powerful than training. They had the fierce determination of those fighting for a dream, for a future worth believing in. And they had each other. They fought as a unit, covering each other's backs, working in seamless coordination. Kai and Nera, so young but so brave, held the line with a courage that belied their years. Ava and Jace, using their medical and technical skills to keep the defenders fighting. And Zax, risking everything to protect the sanctuary that had taken it in. But even with all their bravery, all their determination, it wasn't enough. The Zephyrians kept coming, wave after wave, pushing them back, gaining ground. Rin gritted his teeth, firing his weapon with controlled bursts. "We have to," he said grimly. "We're all that stands between them and the lab." And then, just when all seemed lost, a miracle happened. The ground shook, not with the force of explosions, but with the deep, resonant pulse of activating machinery. The air shimmered, rippled, and suddenly, the cavern was filled with a blinding green light. The terraforming equipment had activated. Rin watched in awe as the barren rock of the cavern floor began to crack, to split. Lush vegetation sprouted from the fissures, growing with impossible speed. The air hummed with energy, with the raw power of creation. The attacking Zephyrians faltered, stunned by the display. And in that moment of hesitation, Rin and his defenders struck. They pushed forward, fueled by renewed hope, the tangible proof of what they were fighting for. The Zephyrians fell back, their resolve crumbling in the face of this overwhelming display of life, of potential. The last of the attackers fled, retreating into the wilderness. The terraforming energy dissipated, leaving behind a transformed cavern, a lush oasis amidst the desolation of war. Rin stood amidst the greenery, his weapon lowered, his face streaked with sweat and grime. Around him, his squad gathered, humans and Zephyrians alike, united in exhausted triumph. "We did it," Nera breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "We actually did it." Dr. Serene emerged from the lab, her face alight with joy. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "If we can do this here, we can do it anywhere. We can create a new future, a new way of life." Rin looked around at the faces of his squad, at the hope and determination shining in their eyes. They had come so far, endured so much, and yet in this moment, all the pain and hardship seemed worth it. They had stood on the brink of annihilation and chosen a different path. They had dared to believe in the impossible, to fight for a dream that others dismissed as foolish fantasy. As the first rays of a new dawn filtered into the cavern, painting the lush growth in shades of gold and green, Rin felt a sense of profound peace settle over him. The war was not over. There were still battles to be fought, prejudices to overcome. But here, in this moment, they had proven that a different way was possible. Humans and Zephyrians, working side by side to create rather than destroy. It was a vision of the future worth fighting for, worth believing in. And fight for it they would. Together, united by the bonds of friendship, of shared purpose. They had been soldiers, once, but now they were something more. They were the guardians of a new era, the protectors of a fragile dream. The dream of a new dawn, rising over a galaxy too long shadowed by war. The dream of a future where the lines between species, between cultures, no longer mattered. The dream of unity, of peace, of hope. And as Rin looked out over the transformed landscape, he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, that dream would never die. For they had seen it, touched it, made it real. And in the light of that truth, no darkness could prevail.